Hello, everyone. Andrew, Phillip. We are the Serious Brothers, and we're going to be talking about how to get from 50 to 100 plus units in real estate. So this is about scaling.
Yeah.
And we want to scale our businesses, and in fact, we're going to be talking about this at the upcoming IMN conference, or at least Phillip is.
Yeah, I have a presentation or a panel that I'm hosting at 9:45 Eastern Time on the 3rd, which is real early for those of you on the West Coast.
On the West
But
Coast.
I'd appreciate you guys to come. You can ask some questions. It'll be kind of a nice way to kind of get some intimate knowledge
Just
about how to do these
Go
things.
to imn.org. You can find the Single Family West Forum. It used to be, they usually hold it in Phoenix, but right now they're holding it up in the
everywhere,
up in the clouds.
It's improved.
Just go
by
to
being
register.
everywhere.
It's $495, and you can go to any of the different panels, including my panel, which will be on alternative portfolio valuation schemes. So we'll do another one.
It's a really great conference. We've done it a couple times. I'm excited to do it again. I'd love to see some of you guys there. But we're going to be talking about how to scale your business. And honestly, the place most people get stuck is when they're at 0 and getting to that 1. That's the hardest place. Most of you are probably there. But it's a very common place for people to be. It's a very hard step to make. We're not going to go too much in detail, but that's when the most changes happen, when you actually have to deal with every type of problem. But as you grow, you're going to continue to see different problems as you keep going up the size of your company. The problems you have at 10 units are kind of different than the ones you have at 1. Then when you get to 50, it'll be even different. And then when you're 100, there's whole new problems you've never experienced before that you all of a sudden have to deal with, and that never stops. At 250, at 500, I keep experiencing new problems.
Passive and just like.
Correct. If you're trying to continue to grow and build a company, you'll continue to find.
You also don't have any real estate problems at 0. Like there's.
Well, you do because you have opportunity.
You got no money.
But so there's even issues I have not faced yet. I'm sure if we grew bigger than we are today. But the biggest thing I think you need to kind of realize is that you're not going to be facing the same issues as you continue to grow. The biggest one is if you have 1 unit or 10 units, you can really easily keep track in your head who's paid rent, how much am I owed, I'm making a side deal here or there, and that just stops working when you get to 30, 40, 50 units.
It stops working very quickly. It never works particularly well. I mean,
correct.
We're big fans of David Allen's Getting Things Done's program, which like get it out of your mind, into your system. Don't keep track of all these little side policies and stuff like that. But it's one of those things, if you have a few obligations, it's not ideal, but it's possible to do it that way. Where I've got something on this piece of paper over here and on my cell phone and then my wallet and my head and whatnot. Once you get to 50, especially, that's over. Like if you're still doing it that way, you're holding on by a thread.
Yeah.
And I think this kind of goes to the difference between growth and scaling, which is often confused by many people.
Yes, they're not the same thing.
No.
Growth is just getting bigger, acquiring more. Just more units and doing more stuff, and it could be in the same field, it could be in different scaling.
Well, hold on. Growth is the philosophy of a cancer. Okay.
Technically true.
Yes, it is true.
Yes, yeah. I mean, growth isn't bad for business either, though. I don't think we want to make that an analogy.
Growth is good, but just growth for the sake of growth is the philosophy of a cancer.
Scaling is kind of like making a scale model of something in a sense. Like take a scale model of a car, and then if it functions at a small level, you blow the whole thing up and it functions the same way at a big level. If you're a fan of the show Mythbusters, they used to always do this. They make a scale model of their experiment, see if it worked, and then they blow it up to the real thing and hopefully it works. That's the same in business. You make a small example of something that works, and you just copy it and copy and copy it and make it really big.
I mean, with a house, the way to think of it is the foundation. Like you can't build a big house on a small foundation or a weak foundation. Or I mean, if you're just thinking about it in terms of this, I mean, think about growth as a ladder. Yeah. You keep going up the ladder, but you can have a ladder go up to a single story or 2 stories. You can even have a really tall ladder, but eventually it's going, no matter how strong the material, it's going to bend and break. And you're definitely not going to be wanting to climb up a ladder that's 100 stories. Yeah. Eventually you want to make a staircase. You need to build something underneath it that gets you one step.
Maybe.
Yeah, elevators, a helicopter.
Yeah. But yeah, so you want to make something that works on a small scale that you can replicate and turn into something big. And what does that look like when it comes to more units?
Well, please tell me.
Well, first thing it comes to is software is going to be very helpful. Having a system of how you do all these things. When you collect rent, how do you collect it? How do you organize it? How do you keep track of accounts receivable? how do you deal with non-payment of rent? Do you make side deals with everybody? Because once you're at 50 units, maybe let's say more like 80 units or something like that, and you have a lot of delinquency, you're making side deals all the time, you will not be successful if you're spending all your time making side deals with people. It's just not going to function. How do you collect work orders? How do you have those work orders sent out to the people actually going to do the work? If you're at 20 units, you might be able to do a lot of the work on yourself. If you're at 100 units, you're trying to do all the work yourself. It's not going to happen. You have to have a system.
Break.
People will automatically create these systems, but they do it out of necessity a lot of the time. And it's like, oh, I have to get more done. I find a way to do it, but it's not really a smart way necessarily. And they brute force.
I mean,
force
I
it.
say
That's
if you're
not the right
making
way to say
if you're making a system, you're doing well. I think that's the first thing.
Yes.
I think the big thing you'll hear system. You know, if you're going like a podcast on like business, well, the thing is systems. You need systems. If you want to have a good business, you need systems, and then systems are the way to make a systematic business systematic and system towards systematic growth in systems. But that's just a word, and I think the way I like to think of it is that every time you find a solution, you systematize it, you policyize it. We're going to make all sorts of verbs here, because let's say you have a situation you've never come across again. Well, you're going to come across it again eventually. Or you have some angry resident because X, Y, and Z, a sewage backup.
Yeah.
Now, are you paying them something, like giving them a discount on the rent because of the sewage backup? Or I mean, you got out there immediately, you fixed it, so no. But it took you extra time and it destroyed some of their closing, so maybe give them a bit of a discount. Like, how are you doing that? Well, turn it into a system, turn it into a policy there.
Yeah.
And then that way because there's decision fatigue.
Yeah.
The more decisions you make, the more exhausted you get, the less you can do, and you just eventually wear out and you burn out and you're done. But if you politicize it, there's no decision to make. You have a policy and you can just stick to it.
I mean, this works with acquiring real estate too. If you want to acquire real estate fast, you need to have a system of how you get those leads and things like that. And then there's even problems when you start hiring staff. It becomes its own issue. I mean, I started dealing with a lot of issues at about 250 units. I was keeping things together, but then I had employees who were communicating with each other and not me, and one employee would know one thing and another employee would know something else. How do I get those lines of cross communication going? It just gets more complicated. You have to have these things more nailed down.
There's certainly a trial and error aspect to it. We have we have a graveyard of abandoned Google Docs. I mean, you create one and it doesn't work, it doesn't catch on, you stop, because if you create a system, you have to really be working on it. You have to push people to use it.
Has to provide value for your team.
Yeah, and it has to become like integrated. It takes time. And a lot of them just don't work, and you got to move on.
And a lot of them are overcomplicated.
Yes.
I mean, you try something that's too hard, it's too difficult for someone who's taking a phone call from a resident to always put in the right notes every single time in this really diligent, exact way. They're going to stop doing it, and then the whole thing falls apart. You have to, the KISS model, keep it simple, stupid.
At about 50 is when you're going to be hiring people.
Yeah.
Maybe you have a maintenance guy before then, but that's when you need to delegate and you need to make sure that they're you're following up on what they're doing. When you get up to over 100, 200, you're going to start having 3 layers. You're going to have somebody who's underneath a manager who reports to you, and at that point you need to have good communication. You do have to have shared Google Docs. We have a Google Doc for all of our properties, like where they're at in turnover, where they're at with being leased. That everyone has to update your with the Rent Manager, which is our property management software. You're saying is
if it's not in Rent Manager, it never happened.
It never happened. And so if somebody says, "Oh, I did that. I talked to this resident about X, Y, or Z." It's like, well, is it not? It's not in Rent Manager. Yeah. So actually, you didn't speak to them. And so like you gotta be fair but firm.
I'm usually not that mean about it, but that's okay.
You gotta be fair but firm. You've got these things. You gotta stick to them. You've got to create some key performance indicators.
Yep.
Regarding you're for management, occupancy, delinquency rates, and keep track of those. Make sure if something's slipping, what's going wrong, and you need to keep, because if you have 2 layers there, especially as you get more and more up and up, there have to be numbers to look at, because you can't monitor everything everyone's doing. You don't have enough time, and if you're scaling, I mean, growth is trying to do everything, trying to monitor everyone, or trying to do it all yourself, or just monitor everyone. Eventually, you need to drop more and more things, delegate more and more things. It's not just about giving it to somebody else, but giving it to somebody else and demanding performance and verifying that performance.
And this is really the thing people don't think about when they're growing is what I've noticed. People are always thinking about how do I get to 100 units, not how do I manage 100 units when they're down here.
Or how do I create a company that can get to 100
Or how do I
units?
replace my income? These are all big issues when it comes to trying to get to these higher levels.
Existential questions.
But this is the one people don't really think about, and the one that you have to be able to get down, or you might do great here, and you're gonna be hating yourself when you get up here if you don't have these things figured out.
I would say one question you should ask yourself before thinking about whether you want to scale is, do you want to scale?
What are your goals?
Some people,
that's huge.
I mean, I've got a friend who's got 10 houses, and he does all the maintenance and all the rehab and releases them out, and that's his job, and he loves it. And it's like, that's great for him. He doesn't want to manage employees. He doesn't want to manage a team or build a giant company. There are other people who want to invest passively and just have an income, and they're not looking for great deals or to build a real estate company. Scaling is, not only is it hard work, but it's a different kind of work. Like, if you love getting your hands dirty and working on houses, that's not the type of work that scaling involves, in creating systems and policies and trying to be both creative but also very diligent and thorough, and also a lot of paperwork, office work, creating a Google Doc, abandoning it, starting over, creating another one, disciplining employees, firing employees, hiring them, all those sorts of things.
A lot that goes into it.
It's not necessarily for everybody, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
So that's the first question to ask. Do you want to get to 50, or do you want to kind of settle in here? And do you want to go past that to a larger company?
Your growth is going to be determined by, or your scaling, whichever, is going to be determined by what your ultimate goal is. And we talk about that a lot on this channel of, you got to define your goals before you even know how to address a specific problem. That's the same here. Our goal is a couple of them. One, hit that red subscribe button.
No, that's their goal.
Well, our goal is for you to hit it.
Our goal is for them to hit it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now you have to hit it because we've talked about it for a while. Also hit that blue thumbs up button. Check me out at 9:45 on the December 3rd, 2020. Go to imin.com to sign to sign up. I would love to answer some of your questions there. And just kind of, ask whatever you want. I'd love to see some of you there, and Andrew's going to be
see you there virtually. Yes, I'll be there as well.
I actually won't get to look at you.
That will be the next video, which you also should watch. You should share this one. You should share that one. Even if, December 2nd, 3rd, 2020 has already happened, you should still share this video, because it's all the information's in the video. So still share it.
Correct.
And still subscribe.
Well, see you guys.